Hello, my name is Betsy Knobman. I'm a nutritionist. I've been a public health nutritionist in Alaska for over 30 years. And during that time, I've had a chance to travel around the state and meet many people and talk about the nutrition and health issues that are concerning to people. Along the line, we found that there are things people are concerned about, and so found that research was important to conduct. And I've had the opportunity to be involved in 6 different dietary surveys. These help us to tell you a little bit better about what are the good choices and how to make the best choices of foods for your health. How is the dietary survey useful in assessing the safety of traditional foods? There are 2 things that we need to think about and answer about how a dietary survey may help identify the benefits and the risks of eating certain foods. And I've come up with 4 questions that I think have to be answered. The first question is, how much food do people eat? So we know what the exposure is for people. Another question is, how much contaminant is in the food? A third question, how does this contaminant affect a person? And the fourth question, what are the benefits and risks of substituting other foods? A dietary survey can help us answer question 1 and question 4. That is, how much people eat and what would be the effect if you substituted another food. Questions 2 and 3 about the risk or the amount of contaminant in a food or about the effect on the body have to be answered by other researchers, toxicologists, physicians, and so forth. So it's a complicated question with not a particularly easy answer, but the dietary survey does provide us with useful information in answering this and helping people arrive at reasonable answers for themselves. Dietary surveys, what are they? Very simply, they're a group of questions posed to a group of people and help us answer what foods do people eat. It also helps us answer how much do they eat. So 2 important features. What do people eat and how much do they eat? They can tell us the nutritional quality as well of what people eat. And by telling us how much people eat, they can give us a concept of the potential exposure if there is some harmful substance in a food. What are the steps that you need to take in order to conduct a diet survey? Well, there's quite a few. The very first and important step is to decide, what do you want to know? If you want to know about how much people eat, you might ask certain questions. If you want to know about the nutrients in those foods and the effects on their health, you need to consider that in your plan and how you go about it. It's possible, and I think most desirable, to look at both of these features, both the amounts of food people eat and what the nutrient quality is of that particular diet. Once you have decided that, or in the process of doing that, you write a plan. And I think it's also very important to consult experts and get other advice about how this is working and how it would work and what you hope to accomplish in terms of sampling or in terms of the statistician's information or a toxicologist or a nutritionist. So they each bring some particular expertise to the task of doing a diet survey. Once you have a plan, of course, then you need to be sure you have the support of the people who would be involved. I think of that in terms of community support. And sometimes it's the representatives who provide that support, whether it's the tribal council or the Native Health Corporation, but being sure that they are in agreement and support of what you're attempting to evaluate. Another important group is the Institutional Review Board, and they assure that proper procedures and ethical conduct is involved in your plan for your survey. One of the very important parts of that function is that there be informed consent. And this is really a process where the person involved in the study has the opportunity to understand exactly what the study would be about and give a consent to participate in an informed manner. What's very important usually, unless your survey is very small, is resources. That means money. It means staff. And it could mean things such as gifts or compensation for the people who are participating, depending on the community and their preference. Once you've attained all of those things, then you can start training the surveyors, because you want to be sure, unless you have only one surveyor, you want to be sure that they are all asking the same kind of questions in the same way, so that your results are consistent. Having done that, then it's time to collect the data. In the process of collecting data as well, you'll need to think about quality assurance, and so things are going smoothly and they're going as planned and everybody's doing their job in the correct fashion. Once you've collected all of this data, then it's time to analyze it. Once again, usually computers are important in that process, again, unless you have a very small survey, but some sort of computer program is important. And if you're going to look at nutrients, there are special programs that allow you to analyze the foods that people consume and tell you what kind of nutrients they, in fact, received. Once you've analyzed, it's time to write the results. And once you've had the results written up, it's time to share that with the participants. In my thinking, it's always important to respond to the participants first before any of the other information is shared elsewhere. But I think it's also important that it be shared with the scientific community, and that may mean a scientific paper, or it may mean popular literature in the newsletters that your community uses and has, or the press, wherever it might be useful and worth sharing. If it was worth doing the survey, I think it's worth sharing. So those are the steps. It sounds like there's quite a few, and in a way there are, but that's because most surveys do take several years to conceive and to carry out and to complete. When we do a diet survey, there are basically two popular methods we've used in Alaska. One is the 24-hour recall, and this simply asks a person, what did they eat yesterday? It's an open-ended kind of questionnaire, and anything goes. We can write down whatever food the person eats. We typically use models of some sort or measuring implements so we can tell how much people eat. So we might use that. Sometimes we would use a ruler. If we're in the home, that's a great opportunity. We can ask people, how much dried fish did you eat, for example? So this would be a great way to find out exactly what people are eating. The problem is maybe yesterday was not a typical day for you, and so you're stuck with oh, I was sick yesterday, or some other problem. So this is one of the disadvantages of a 24-hour recall. So the second model that we might use, and the second concept, would be to use a food frequency. In this kind of questionnaire, we already have the foods decided. Now this takes some discussion ahead of time to decide what are the most important foods in the diet in that particular community. Once we've decided which foods, we then have to give people some idea of the portion size. And the way we've done that in the past is to use a standard portion size and allow the person to tell us how many of these portion sizes they have. This particular one is a rubber chicken model that we found is useful in a variety of ways of evaluating portion size. We can ask people, did they have a half of this, one of these, two or three of these portion sizes, to get some idea of the amount they eat. We also ask people how often they eat the food. So is it once a week, twice a month, once a year? And that also gives us some concept about the foods. A food frequency questionnaire is very helpful in that it can also tell us what the person usually eats. And this is important if you're trying to decide if a person has heart disease or diabetes or something else that you want to know the relationship of the food and the diet. The downside or the disadvantage to a food frequency is perhaps you have not asked the correct food or sufficient numbers of the correct foods for that particular community.